Welcome back to ABC GH Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the thrilling developments unfolding in Port Charles, where danger and drama collide in unexpected ways, creating ripples through the lives of our beloved characters. Jason and Sunny's relentless pursuit of truth continues as they navigate the complex web of deception surrounding the mysterious hit order. Despite facing setbacks in Toronto, Sunny remains optimistic, telling Jason this trail may not be cold just yet. Their interrogation of Solowski at gunpoint in his apartment takes an unfortunate turn, potentially due to Solowski's desperate attempt to seize control of the situation. The informant understands the deadly consequences of betrayal, creating a tense standoff that could end fatally before any crucial information is revealed. Nevertheless, General Hospital spoilers indicate that Jason and Sunny will persevere in their investigation, determined to uncover the mastermind behind the hit. Drew Quartermaine's aggressive approach to demolishing the Quartermaine crypt reveals his willingness to operate in morally gray areas. His stern phone directive, "Get it done, I don't care how you do it," demonstrates his determination to proceed regardless of potential obstacles. This reckless attitude may strain his relationship with Ezra Boyle, who appears concerned about the public relations nightmare that could ensue. Drew's forceful methods suggest an underlying desperation that could lead to his undoing, as betrayal looms on the horizon, possibly from Ezra himself, who might prioritize legal compliance over loyalty to Drew's questionable tactics. The situation with Emma Drake intensifies as she chains herself to the Quartermaine crypt in protest, creating a standoff with her grandmother Anna Devane. Anna's call for bolt cutters to free Emma from her self-imposed restraints only deepens the young woman's sense of betrayal. Emma's disbelief at statements made during their confrontation hints at a generational clash of principles. She may call out Anna's perceived hypocrisy, questioning how someone with Anna's checkered past can lecture her about staying out of trouble. This family conflict takes an interesting turn when Max Scorpio provides Anna with potentially perspective-altering evidence, which could reshape her approach to the entire situation. Trina Robinson finds herself concerned after learning about Kai Taylor's potential surgery from Kai himself. The revelation prompts Trina to worry about the significant risks involved in the procedure, adding another layer of emotional complexity to their relationship. This medical decision represents just one of many life-altering choices facing Port Charles residents as characters navigate personal challenges alongside community crises. At Charlie's pub, Molly Lansing Davis expresses reservations about Cody Bell's presence, given his recent violent altercation with Lucky Spencer. Her concern highlights the interconnected nature of Port Charles' relationships and how past conflicts continue to influence present interactions. However, Lucky's absence from the pub, having departed to follow Christina Corinthos Davis after her disturbing remarks, creates a temporary reprieve from potential confrontation. This momentary peace is shattered when Molly receives devastating news about her father Rick's car accident, potentially driving her to seek emotional support from Cody, despite her initial misgivings about his presence. The aftermath of Christina's misguided sabotage of Rick Lansing's car creates a cascade of trauma and regret. Her horrible realization that her actions caused injuries to both Rick and Elizabeth will undoubtedly trigger profound guilt and potentially life-changing consequences. The accident scene becomes a focal point of intense emotion as Lucky Spencer arrives, desperately trying to reach Elizabeth despite being restrained by law enforcement personnel who insist that paramedics are handling the situation. Lucky's frantic concern for Elizabeth's well-being underscores their enduring connection, even as she and Rick are rushed to General Hospital for emergency treatment. The crash site chaos represents the physical manifestation of Port Charles' emotional turbulence, where actions born of revenge or desperation often yield unintended and devastating results. Lucky's frantic efforts to reach Elizabeth despite official restraint illustrates how deeply personal connections transcend rational boundaries in moments of crisis. Meanwhile, Christina must confront the horrifying reality that her vengeful act against Rick inadvertently endangered Elizabeth as well, creating a moral reckoning that will likely reshape her character moving forward. Port Charles continues to be a city where personal vendettas, family loyalties, and romantic entanglements create a complex tapestry of human drama. From Drew's ruthless determination to demolish the Quartermaine crypt to Christina's accidental endangerment of innocent lives, characters find themselves facing the unintended consequences of their actions. As medical emergencies unfold at General Hospital, investigative pursuits continue in Toronto, and protests escalate at historical landmarks, the citizens of this troubled town navigate a landscape where today's decisions inevitably shape tomorrow's crises. The emotional fallout from these converging storylines promises to test relationships, challenge alliances, and potentially forge unexpected connections in Port Charles residents. As Elizabeth and Rick receive urgent medical attention, Lucky's profound concern highlights unresolved feelings that may resurface during this crisis. Similarly, Molly's reaction to her father's accident could reshape her perception of Cody, potentially transforming initial awareness into gratitude for his support during her time of need. As these dramatic events unfold, viewers can anticipate significant character development across multiple storylines. Emma's protest and subsequent confrontation with Anna may lead to greater mutual understanding or deeper division between grandmother and granddaughter. Christina's reckoning with the consequences of her actions could trigger profound personal growth or devastating psychological impact. Meanwhile, Sunny and Jason's continued investigation promises to uncover secrets that could destabilize Port Charles's precarious power dynamics. The intertwining of personal and community crises creates a rich narrative landscape where characters must navigate both immediate emergencies and long-term consequences. As medical professionals work to save Elizabeth and Rick, investigators pursue dangerous truths, and family members confront painful realities, Port Charles remains a city where hope and heartbreak exist in perpetual tension, driving the compelling human drama that keeps viewers returning for more. Next, we will learn about the issue of Christina Corinthos Davis's dangerous actions and the devastating ripple effects they could have throughout Port Charles, affecting multiple lives in ways no one could have anticipated. What do you think about this explosive situation unfolding in Port Charles? The question remains whether Rick and Elizabeth will indeed become the unintended casualties of Christina's vengeful scheme. As viewers, we're left wondering if Lucky will face that impossible choice between seeking justice for Elizabeth, the woman he's clearly rekindling feelings for, and protecting Christina, who has become an unexpected but valued friend. The moral dilemma intensifies as we consider whether Christina will ultimately step forward and confess to save her father from taking the fall for her actions. These questions highlight the complex web of relationships and loyalties that make General Hospital such a compelling drama. The potential confession from Sunny creates a fascinating dynamic that could reshape multiple storylines. When Sunny approaches Anna Devane and claims responsibility for tampering with Ava's car, he's not just protecting his daughter, he's potentially sacrificing his freedom and empire. This selfless act, coming from a character often criticized for his moral ambiguity, demonstrates the depths of parental love that transcend even Sunny's complicated ethical code. The confession scene would likely be emotionally charged, with Anna's skepticism possibly showing through as she processes Sunny's claim. The veteran detective might sense something amiss in his story, creating tension as she weighs her duty to justice against her own complicated history with the Corinthos family. Lucky's reaction to Sunny's decision adds another layer of complexity to this unfolding drama. His surprise at Sunny's willingness to take the fall reveals Lucky's own moral compass. He wants justice, but not at the cost of false imprisonment, even for someone with Sunny's checkered past. This internal conflict represents Lucky's evolution as a character, balancing his law enforcement background with the messy realities of human relationships. The conversation between Lucky and Sunny would be fraught with tension, as Lucky argues for finding another way, while Sunny, ever the pragmatist when it comes to family protection, insists there isn't one. This clash of perspectives highlights the fundamental differences between these two men, who are temporarily united by their concern for people they care about. The PCPD's investigation into the tampered vehicle creates a ticking clock element that drives the narrative forward. With first evidence pointing to deliberate sabotage of Ava's car, the authorities are methodically piecing together what happened. This investigation would likely involve familiar faces from the Port Charles Police Department, working through physical evidence, questioning potential witnesses, and gradually narrowing down their list of suspects. The technical aspects of proving brake tampering would be methodically presented, creating a sense of inevitable discovery that pushes Sunny toward his drastic decision. The police procedural elements provide a grounding reality to the emotional chaos unfolding among the characters. Sunny's protective instinct toward Christina showcases the complicated father-daughter relationship that has evolved over years of shared trauma and reconciliation. Despite Christina's numerous mistakes and rebellions, Sunny's unwavering commitment to shielding her from consequences demonstrates his growth as a father. The scene where Lucky reveals Christina's actions to Sunny would be emotionally devastating, with Sunny's initial shock giving way to grim determination as he processes what his daughter has done. His immediate pivot to sacrifice rather than anger or disappointment reveals volumes about his priorities and values. This moment would likely feature some of the most nuanced acting, as Sunny absorbs this terrible news while already formulating his plan to protect Christina at any cost. Lucky's internal struggle between justice for Elizabeth and protection for Christina represents the classic moral dilemma that makes soap drama so compelling. As a former law enforcement officer with a strong ethical code, Lucky values truth and accountability. However, his growing friendship with Christina has created an emotional connection that complicates his response. The scenes showing Lucky processing this conflict would likely feature introspective moments, perhaps with Lucky visiting Elizabeth's unconscious form in the hospital, torn between his renewed feelings for her and his reluctance to destroy Christina's life. This internal battle would manifest in visible stress, hesitation in his interactions, and possibly confiding in a trusted third party as he works through his impossible choice. Christina's horror at the unintended consequences of her actions provides a powerful character development opportunity. What began as a targeted act of revenge against Ava has spiraled into potentially fatal injuries for two innocent people. Christina's reaction would likely progress through stages: initial shock at hearing who was actually in the car, denial about the severity of the situation, bargaining with Lucky to keep her secret, and finally, the crushing weight of guilt as she realizes what she's done. This emotional journey creates opportunities for powerful scenes as Christina grapples with the reality that her impulsive action might have killed two people who weren't even her intended targets. Her desperate plea to Lucky not to turn her in would reveal her initial self-preservation instinct, showing how far she still has to go in terms of taking responsibility for her actions. The potential for Elizabeth and Rick to become victims of Christina's sabotage creates a dramatic irony that elevates the storyline. The speculation that they borrowed Ava's car while working to help Portia Robinson adds layers of coincidence and connection that are hallmarks of great soap opera plotting. The accident scene would likely be filmed with intense urgency, screeching tires, Rick's desperate attempts to control the vehicle as the brakes fail, and the terrifying moment of impact. The aftermath would show the car wreckage, emergency responders working frantically, and the gradual revelation of the victims' identities to shocked onlookers. Elizabeth's unconscious state and Rick's serious injuries raise the stakes significantly, transforming what Christina intended as an act of revenge into a potential double homicide. Lucky's realization about Christina's involvement sets up a powerful confrontation between these two characters who have developed an unexpected bond. The moment when Lucky deduces that Christina is responsible for the accident that has left Elizabeth fighting for her life would be charged with betrayal, anger, and disbelief. His initial reaction, confronting Christina with raw emotion and blame, shows the depth of his feelings for Elizabeth and the sense of violation he feels at Christina's actions. This confrontation would likely feature raised voices, accusations, and Christina's tearful attempts to explain herself. The dynamic shifts as Lucky declares his need to focus on Elizabeth now, creating a temporary reprieve that allows both characters to process the situation while maintaining dramatic tension about what Lucky will ultimately decide to do. General Hospital spoilers suggest that Christina Corinthos Davis is initiating a perilous sequence of events that could culminate in a devastating automobile accident. Her intended target appears to be Ava Jerome, but circumstances may prevent her plan from unfolding as expected. In a cruel twist of fate, Rick Lansing and Elizabeth Baldwin might end up bearing the brunt of Christina's vengeful actions. One possibility is that Rick borrows Ava's vehicle with Elizabeth accompanying him, perhaps as they collaborate on assisting Dr. Portia Robinson with a medical matter. This unexpected development places Rick and Elizabeth's lives in jeopardy through no fault of their own, creating a dramatic situation where innocent parties suffer for another's vendetta. The spoilers further indicate that Lucky Spencer somehow becomes aware of Christina's dangerous machinations. If Christina has sabotaged Ava's vehicle, possibly by tampering with the brakes, this creates an extraordinarily complicated moral dilemma for Lucky. Following Christina's confession, Lucky would possess definitive knowledge of her culpability in the accident, despite Elizabeth and Rick not being her intended victims. Lucky would quickly connect the dots and realize that Christina bears responsibility for the car crash, leaving him devastated by Elizabeth's precarious condition. The aftermath would show both Elizabeth and Rick fighting for survival, with Rick in particularly critical condition and Elizabeth unconscious, deepening Lucky's emotional turmoil as he watches the woman he's falling in love with again fighting for her life. Initially, Lucky would confront Christina with righteous anger, placing the blame squarely on her shoulders. Christina, shocked by this unexpected turn of events, would plead with Lucky not to expose her role in the accident. Lucky would respond by saying he needs time to consider his options, emphasizing that his immediate priority is Elizabeth's well-being. Meanwhile, Christina would be consumed by the horrifying realization that her actions might cause the deaths of unintended victims. Lucky's knowledge of Christina's responsibility places him in an impossible position, torn between seeking justice for Elizabeth, the woman he's developing renewed romantic feelings for, and protecting Christina, with whom he's formed a strong friendship. Initially, he might attempt to shield Christina, but ultimately his moral compass would compel him to reveal the truth. The most likely scenario involves Lucky approaching sunny Corinthos to disclose what Christina has done, setting in motion another dramatic chapter in this unfolding saga. Sunny's reaction to Lucky's revelation would be one of shock, quickly followed by his paternal instinct to protect Christina at all costs. In a surprising turn, Sunny informs Lucky of his intention to confess to the crime himself, a decision that Lucky strongly opposes. With the Port Charles Police Department already aware that Ava's vehicle was tampered with, Sunny recognizes that it's only a matter of time before investigators uncover the truth. He therefore sees his confession as the only viable option to protect his daughter. Lucky would desperately attempt to dissuade Sunny, arguing that there must be an alternative solution, but Sunny remains resolute in his decision. The storyline reaches a climactic point when Sunny approaches Anna Devane and claims responsibility for tampering with Ava's car, raising the question of whether Christina will ultimately come forward with the truth to prevent her father from facing imprisonment for her crime. We will learn about the issue of potential character departures that has Port Charles fans on edge, as the show's recent exodus of beloved characters raises questions about who might be the next to leave the canvas. Should devoted viewers be concerned about the futures of Sunny Corinthos and Elizabeth Baldwin on General Hospital? This question looms large in the minds of the soap's dedicated fan base, who have weathered numerous character departures and dramatic exits over the years. The potential loss of either character would fundamentally alter the show's landscape, creating ripple effects that would touch nearly every storyline currently unfolding in Port Charles. Sunny's position as the town's complicated anti-hero and Elizabeth's role as a beloved nurse with deep connections throughout the community make them linchpins of the show's intricate narrative web. Their potential departures wouldn't just represent the loss of familiar faces, but would necessitate a complete recalibration of numerous ongoing storylines and character relationships. The prospect of Elizabeth Baldwin meeting a tragic end in an upcoming car accident presents a particularly heart-wrenching possibility for longtime viewers. After years of romantic turbulence and personal challenges, Elizabeth stands at a pivotal moment in her storyline, potentially reuniting with her former flame Lucky Spencer. The cruel irony of Elizabeth potentially perishing in an accident caused by Christina Corinthos Davis, who has developed a close friendship with Lucky, would create a devastating emotional conflict that could reverberate through Port Charles for months to come. This narrative twist would force Lucky to confront not only the loss of a woman he's reconnecting with romantically, but also the betrayal of a friend whose actions led to that loss. The psychological complexity of such a storyline would provide rich dramatic material, exploring themes of grief, betrayal, forgiveness, and moral responsibility. If Elizabeth were to become collateral damage in Christina's vendetta against Ava Jerome, the question of whether Christina would conceal her involvement becomes central to the unfolding drama. Christina's character has evolved significantly over the years, from a rebellious teenager to a complex young woman still struggling with impulsivity and poor decision-making. The weight of responsibility for Elizabeth's death could either catalyze tremendous growth in Christina's character or send her spiraling into deeper moral compromise as she attempts to hide her culpability. The psychological burden of carrying such a secret would likely manifest in visible ways, perhaps through increased substance abuse, erratic behavior, or desperate attempts to make amends without revealing the truth. Meanwhile, Lucky's investigative instincts, honed through his years in law enforcement, might lead him to gradually uncover the truth about his friend's involvement, setting the stage for a confrontation that would test the limits of forgiveness and justice. The imminent car accident resulting from Christina's tampering with Ava's brakes exemplifies the soap opera principle that revenge plots rarely unfold as intended. In a genre defined by unexpected twists and ironic reversals, Christina's scheme to harm Ava, instead endangering Elizabeth and Rick Lansing, represents classic soap storytelling at its most effective. The dramatic irony of innocent parties suffering the consequences of Christina's vendetta creates multiple layers of conflict, not only between Christina and her intended target, but also between Christina and those who care about the actual victims. This narrative structure allows the writers to explore the unintended consequences of vengeance and the moral complexity of responsibility. The accident itself will likely be filmed with heightened dramatic tension, perhaps utilizing slow-motion sequences, cross-cutting between multiple perspectives, and ominous musical cues to underscore the life-altering significance of this moment for all involved. Soaps have long embraced ironic twists of fate, and General Hospital fans should prepare themselves for a particularly shocking development in this storyline. The potential decision to end Elizabeth's life through this accident would represent a bold narrative choice, eliminating a character who has been central to Port Charles since Elizabeth's extensive history on the show, including her iconic romance with Lucky, her complicated relationship with Jason Morgan, her career as a dedicated nurse, and her role as a mother, means that her death would leave an enormous void in the fabric of the show. The ripple effects would touch nearly every corner of Port Charles, from the hospital where she works to the many characters whose lives she's impacted over decades. Such a dramatic exit would provide emotional material for numerous characters to process their grief, potentially leading to storylines about how different characters cope with loss in their own unique ways. Meanwhile, Sonny Corinthos faces a different but equally threatening situation as his health condition continues to deteriorate. The recent scene where Sonny collapsed, clutching his chest while Ava Jerome mockingly inquired if he needed his medication, evoked memories of Edward Quartermaine's manipulative heart attack feint to test Tracy Quartermaine's loyalty. However, unlike Edward's theatrical performance, Sonny's cardiac condition represents a genuine threat to his survival. This parallel to a classic General Hospital moment creates a rich intertextual reference that longtime viewers will appreciate, connecting current storylines to the show's storied history. The scene between Sonny and Ava also highlights their toxic dynamic, with Ava's callous response to Sonny's distress revealing the depths of animosity between these two characters who share a complicated history and a daughter. While Sonny may survive the immediate future, the precarious state of his health has created a sense of impending doom surrounding the character. The mob boss has survived countless assassination attempts, shootouts, explosions, and betrayals throughout his decades in Port Charles, demonstrating almost supernatural resilience in the face of external threats. However, the introduction of a serious heart condition represents a different kind of vulnerability, one that cannot be overcome through cunning, firepower, or loyal enforcers. This internal threat to Sonny's mortality creates a new dimension to his character, forcing him to confront his own fragility in ways that external dangers never could. The psychological impact of living with this condition might push Sonny to reconsider his priorities, legacy, and relationships, potentially leading to significant character development as he grapples with his mortality. Sonny's cardiac condition functions as a narrative time bomb that could detonate at any moment, creating constant tension whenever the character appears on screen. Viewers now watch his scenes with heightened awareness, analyzing every grimace or moment of physical discomfort for signs that his heart might be failing. This storytelling technique keeps audiences engaged and emotionally invested in Sonny's welfare, even during otherwise routine scenes. The unpredictability of when or if this condition might claim Sonny's life maintains dramatic tension while giving writers flexibility in how they ultimately resolve this storyline. They could use it as a red herring that never fully materializes, as the catalyst for a temporary departure and return, or as the means for a permanent character exit if necessary. If something were to happen to Sonny Corinthos, the repercussions would fundamentally alter Port Charles's landscape. As the community's most prominent organized crime figure, Sonny's absence would create a power vacuum that multiple characters might attempt to fill, potentially igniting a mob war that could endanger numerous residents. Beyond the criminal underworld, Sonny's complex web of relationships with his children, his ex-wives, his current romantic interests, his business associates, and his enemies means that his death would emotionally impact a vast swath of the show's canvas. Characters would be forced to reevaluate their identities in relation to Sonny's absence, particularly those whose lives have been defined by their connection to him. This narrative potential makes Sonny's health condition not merely a threat to one character, but a storytelling device that could reshape the entire show if activated. The recent exodus of characters from General Hospital has created a climate of uncertainty among viewers who have witnessed the departures of numerous beloved figures. Sam McCall, Cyrus Renaud, Dex Heller, and Valentine Cassadine represent just a fraction of the characters who have recently exited Port Charles, each departure leaving emotional gaps for both their in-show connections and the audience. This pattern of exits has naturally led fans to speculate about which established characters might be next to leave, with particular concern focused on long-running favorites like Sonny and Elizabeth. The television industry's economic realities, combined with actors' personal career decisions and creative team storytelling choices, means that no character, regardless of their historical importance to the show, is truly safe from potential departure. This awareness creates a meta level of tension for viewers who must prepare themselves for the possibility that any favorite character could exit the canvas at any time. General Hospital has demonstrated remarkable longevity, partly because of its willingness to evolve its cast over time, introducing new characters while allowing others to depart. This constant renewal process keeps storylines fresh and creates opportunities for new narrative directions. However, the potential departures of characters as central as Sonny Corinthos and Elizabeth Baldwin would represent particularly significant transitions for the show. Both characters have decades-long histories in Port Charles and have been central to countless major storylines over the years. Their potential exits would not only affect the characters directly connected to them, but would also necessitate a recalibration of the show's entire narrative framework. The writers would need to carefully consider how to fill the voids left by such significant departures, potentially elevating secondary characters to more prominent roles or introducing entirely new figures to maintain the show's dramatic balance. As these potentially life-altering storylines unfold, General Hospital fans will undoubtedly remain glued to their screens, anxiously following the fates of these beloved characters. The uncertainty surrounding Sonny's health condition and Elizabeth's involvement in the upcoming car accident creates compelling dramatic tension that will drive viewership in the coming weeks. Whether these storylines ultimately result in character departures or merely serve as vehicles for further character development remains to be seen, but the journey promises to be emotionally engaging regardless of the destination. In the ever-evolving world of Port Charles, change is the only constant, and viewers must prepare themselves for whatever twists and turns lie ahead for these cherished characters who have become like family to many loyal fans over the decades.